We sure know how to run things by morbid desires. Chapter 1 For Freedom and Justice. Okay, maybe it had spiralled a bit, but Mr. Stark had been wrong, and Peter wasn't just going to stand by while innocent people got hurt. Honestly, it wasn't his fault the superhero was too rich to notice the impact his every decision had on everyday people. But, as things go, he confronted Mrs. Stark about it, and they fought, and that fight dragged up several other issues they had with each other, and they both called each other some terrible things, and he was pretty sure Mr. Stark banned him from setting foot on any Stark property, and maybe, just maybe, he'd been petty and purposefully set off an explosion in one of the labs as a sort of goodbye, fuck you too. Anyways, Mr. Stark hadn't taken the suit back, but maybe that's just because Peter had been there as an intern-mentee thing, and he forgot to take it back. Either way, he'd been swinging around just fine, and big old Iron Man hadn't stopped him yet, so either the man was too busy and forgot, or he truly didn't care, which hurt. He wasn't going to back down. This was the first time he'd ever expressed any sort of discomfort with what Mr. Stark had been doing. The billionaire needed a reality check. He'd probably gone through life stepping on toes and smiling that big flashy grin all his life, and that was fine. It was. But sometimes he lost sight of the little people, the ones Spider-Man protected. A contract here, a signature there, and hundreds of people would lose their homes. Yes, Peter may have overreacted, but the sheer callousness and carefreeness with which Mr. Stark treated the whole thing enraged him. He may have yelled and broken something. He may have gotten yelled at. They might have fought. He may or may not have called Mr. Stark a selfish, narcissistic, egoistic bastard who didn't care about anyone other than himself. He might have brought up the Accords. The fight may have devolved from there. Anyways, the point was, he and Mr. Stark were on the outs, so to speak. So why was he staring down a permission slip for a field trip to Stark Industries and debating whether or not to go? He'd probably get kicked out as soon as he set foot in the lobby anyways. Not that he wanted to go. Friday would probably not let him in because Tony had expressly said, any and all properties owned by me. So there was no point in going. No point in having to face Mr. Stark in all his asshole-ish glory, in his hypocrisy and total refusal to look beyond his world of gleaming metal and parties and glamour. By this point the contract had probably gone through, and then demolition would start in a few weeks. Fucker. For Mr. Stark it was easy to avoid these issues and just insist that he was always right. If he was stubborn and always right, then he never had to be wrong and feel anything bad. But Peter wasn't going to back down from doing the right thing. When you can do the things that he can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you. Like his Uncle Ben used to say, with great power comes great responsibility, and he had a responsibility to those people. He dropped the permission slip back on his desk and flopped onto his bed. He was not going to think about it. At all. Okay, maybe he was going to think about it. But it wasn't his fault. It's not like he could talk to anyone about this. Ned borderline worshipped Mr. Stark, and he wasn't going to be the cruel villain who ruthlessly ripped away the curtain. He wasn't that mean. And May didn't like Mr. Stark to begin with. To tell her that she had been right, and that yes, Mr. Stark was indeed the narcissistic asshole she had pegged him as, he wasn't ready for that. And everyone else either didn't believe he had a Stark internship, or was already suspicious of his spider self. Peter sighed as he weaved through traffic. He really did not want to think about this mess. He already had enough on his plate, what with 3 essays he had due next week, the 11 worksheets, the Spanish test he had tomorrow, the gang deal that was going down at the docks tonight, the upcoming meeting he had with another vigilante, a really scary guy named Daredevil, and the fact that their fridge was currently empty, and May wouldn't notice until tomorrow. But he was still a hungry spider-human hybrid with an enhanced metabolism. And there was still the whole Mr. Stark's deal with knocking down an entire neighborhood thing. As he said, he was stressed. He was currently on his way to decathlon practice, which he needed to drop, like, yesterday. And after that, he would swing by a Spidey to that neighbourhood. The people there were super duper nice too. There was the old lady who always gave him churros, the little girl who made him little gifts, the twins who always helped everyone when he wasn't there, the hot dog vendor who declared that food was free for spider folk as long as they continued protecting the citizens of New York, Linda, the stressed single mom whose child kept walking into traffic, Bunny the cat who kept getting stuck in the same tree, and Bruce, the kid who'd seen him without his mask and quickly closed his eyes and turned away because Spidey didn't want anyone to know who he was. All these wonderful, sweet people were depending on him, a fuck-up of the greatest extremes, to save them from their lives being uprooted. He just wanted to scream. So he did. He ducked into a side alley and gave out the most god-awful, demon-scaring scream. Okay, better. Still not great, but better. Gah. He was getting a stress headache. He had too much due and too much to do and not enough time or sleep to do it. He was only a minute away from the school. He made his way to the building, getting there just as Flash pulled up in his fancy car. Fucker. Not really. He was just in a snappy mood. As he took his seat in the mostly empty chemistry classroom, the rest of the Acadec team slowly filtered in, chatting about God knows what. Lie. Peter could hear them across the hallway. They were discussing the best ways to potentially take over the world. Nerds, he thought fondly, conveniently ignoring the folder he had under his bed with hypothetical step-by-step instructions. MJ slammed her hands down on the table. Okay, losers. Last year's Acadec team, which was exactly the same, won the finals, so congrats or whatever. As a reward for our excellence and the high standards we set for our fellow students, Principal Moroter decided that a field trip was the best reward, ignoring that every single time we've been on a field trip before, it's always ended in disaster. Like seriously, Sydney, don't you still have a scar from that mutated octopus? Cindy nodded and rolled up her jeans, showing a truly gruesome and awesome scar. And Abe, didn't your therapist send a letter saying you were exempt from field trips after the incident? Abe grinned. She said she needed a therapist for the second-hand trauma from our team's near-death misses. Exactly. So, is there anyone here who can convince the teachers to cancel the trip? Any reasons at all? Peter raised his hand. I tried to bring up the fact that I have a Stark internship, but I don't think they believe me. I mean, sure, I wouldn't believe me either, but I'd actually submitted proper proof and everything earlier. Anyways, I don't think I'll be allowed in. This got everyone's attention. They'd all also thought Peter had been lying about the internship, but to have actual proof, and more than that, he'd been banned. To be banned from Stark Industries was something unheard of, reserved only from the most heinous supervillains. For God's sake, Tony Stark had practically invited the Mandarin into his house. Even Loki had spent time in the Stark Industries building. What the fuck had Peter done? The aforementioned teen looked around nervously before realizing that no, he wasn't just going to get out of this so easily. We had a bit of a fight? His voice pitched up embarrassingly high at the end of the sentence. Ned gasped. Was it about you know what? No, Ned, it wasn't about that. This was more of a personal moral thingy. Sally pushed her face between them, staring at Peter with eerily awake eyes. Weird. It was like she was trying to extract his secrets through the sheer power of her mind. Spill, Parker. It's clearly bothering you. Do you even talk about your problems or cage them up like every other detail about your life? And then the dam broke. Peter slumped onto the table, head in crossed arms, and told everyone. Not the Spider-Man stuff, obviously, but the neighborhood and all its occupants and their tiny little details, and how Mr. Stark's deal was going to absolutely ruin their lives, and how there was nothing he could do. He vented all his frustrations about the man and his callous rich person ways. At some point, he had gotten up and started pacing around. By the end of it, every single one of his teammates were incensed. Even Flash, in all his assholish glory, agreed. New plan, folks. Operation Fuck Iron Man is on. Can it be Fuck Tony Stark instead? Iron Man saves me from the slime villain thing once. Fine, Charles. No, Cindy, we do not mean fuck in your daddy simping ways. Get that hoity away from this good, honourable academic team. Boo. Fine, only because I really agree with Peter here. MJ nodded. So, Peter will be banned from the tower, but the rest of us will be forced to go. Abe, you're on whining detail. Sally, you're on the ask them so many invasive questions they start to break down. Use your reporting skills. Use your gossiping skills. Use everything. Betty, you too. Charles, you're on break every rule. Ned, I know you can't help a fanboy, so you're on wander away and get lost for hours in high security areas. Tash, you're obviously on rich brat who can't be bothered duty. Anyone left? No. Guys, you can't do that. You kept us on it. We hate the list or something. Don't you want a good job, a good life? Would you really throw it all away for a single argument I had with Mr. Stark? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Duh. No. Ned took Peter's distraught face in his hands. Peter, darling, light of my life, you are, and I cannot stress this enough, an absolute idiot. Peter just blinked at him, like an absolute idiot. Betty patted his head. We aren't just doing this for you, dummy. It's the right thing to do. Mr. Stark was way out of line. And sure, we can't go up to him and force him to change the deal, but we can show our support for you in little ways. Besides, we really need a reason to get banned from field trips, and this is as good as any. It's for a good cause, it's something we all agree on, and it's something we can actually do, instead of waiting for disasters to strike us down. Huh. His friends were kind of awesome. Chapter 2. For not getting fired. Roger Harrington bit back a groan of frustration. Yes, he supported the kids and their agenda to get them banned from field trips. Yes, he knew about that. They were all terrible at remembering that he was in the Decathlon group chat. Yes, he knew that to get banned they would naturally have to behave terribly. But was it just his fate to be caught in the crossfire? First, they had all handed in torn, mangled, and even a few suspicious-smelling permission slips. Peter's might have been covered in blood, and Abe's smelt highly of dog pee, the day after they were due. Then, when he had finally submitted the necessary forms and paperwork to Stark Industries, where he'd been wanting to go for ages, it turned out that Peter hadn't been lying. He really had been blacklisted from every Stark Industries building, which, what the fuck? The kid was 16. He couldn't even pass gym, let alone pose an actual threat to a multi-million company. So he'd sent back a politely worded email, put on his time to be an adult pants, and asked them why Peter had been banned. Of course, somehow, the actual head of security got roped into the mess, some guy called Harold, who took one look at the kid's proof of identity picture and overrode the actual coding of the building to let him in. What the fuck, Parker? He didn't open the group chat but at this point he was really wishing he had, because every single one of his hellions was actively trying to make his difficult, and having even the teensiest forewarning would have been a blessing. All of them arrived 10 to 15 minutes late to the bus. The only one even vaguely apologetic was Peter. The rest just glared at him like he was personally responsible for every single disaster and alien attack on planet Earth. On the bus ride over, they'd all decided that yes, let's all vent all our frustrations by screaming and throwing things around, and somehow break a 2-inch thick glass window. Let's do it in such a way and with such hullabaloo that some concerned citizen calls the police. Let's all get pulled over and be even later for a scheduled trip to the most prestigious company in the world. Rascals, the lot of them. If anyone asked, he would deny it vehemently, but he was a little scared of them. Once they arrived at the parking lot, it was like a switch had been flipped. Gone were the chaotic, playful children, and there stood emotionless warriors. All emotion had been wiped off their faces, leaving behind a mix of serious determination and barely concealed disdain. He knew they held a grudge, and fully agreed, but it was terrifying how quickly they could all turn off their emotions. It wasn't just them, it was every single teenager. Was he supposed to get them therapy or something? They'd been through a lot, right? Aliens, deadly field trips, near-death experiences every other week, the villains that all somehow only attacked New York, the fact that most of them belonged to highly marginalized or discriminated against groups. Oh, oh no, he mourned. He was going to have to fight the entire school system to get them therapy, wasn't he? Well, that was a problem for future Roger. Current Roger needed to not get fired once this train wreck was over, which was going to be very hard. The kids walked, nay, marched into the lobby, faces set in stone, calm in the face of danger as they risked their entire futures to do this right thing for a single instance, to stand up for what was right against what was easy. He was proud of them, scared for them, and mostly just stressed about them. Okay, deep breaths, Roger. You've got this. So far, so good. The smartest AI in the world didn't extend to the lobby, apparently. Nobody had been called out as banned, no one had started a fire, and there had been no nervous breakdowns of hard-working employees. He walked to the receptionist. Her name badge said Lee, she, her, and politely waited while she argued with some sleazy asshole. Gosh, at least his hellions had the good sense not to antagonize people just doing their jobs, and were glaring at said asshole. Peter had a very strange expression on his face. It looked like a mix of resignation, exhaustion, and irritation, like he knew everything was going to go wrong, but was going to do it anyway. Good for him. The kid pasted a smile on his face and cut in. Hi, Lee. Peter, it's been so long since I've seen you. You haven't been coming by as often. Is everything fine? Peter hesitated. Don't do it, Parker. Don't say it. Oh, I got banned, he grimaced. Damn it. You? No way. I thought that was a bug or something. Why on earth would Friday ban you? Kid Wonder, Sunshine Boy, Intern 2. Peter cut her off with wildly exaggerated gestures. Way to be subtle, kid. Even Mr. Asshole looked interested in him now. Peter's gesticulation had also caught the eye of a security guard hovering nearby. The man drew closer. This Peter Parker? There's a problem with the code. Mr. Hogan told me to make sure he makes it past security. He was also muttering to himself. What the fuck, man? Why is it always me who has to get the anomalies? Last time it was that demented clown fucker. Why the fuck is the anomaly a kid? What the fuck is wrong with this place? Roger probably wasn't supposed to hear. Anyways, he handed over a bunch of ID cards with all his kids' names and one singular, bright pink Hello Kitty ID card. Take a fucking guess whom that was for. Peter fucking Parker. He distributed them amongst the kids and handed the kid the pink one. Peter wasn't even surprised. Roger was too tired and confused to be anything other than done with this shit. The field trip hadn't even started. Walking through security was one hell of a trip. The sheer amount of tech, the multiple body and baggage checks, the gleaming metal frames, and most fancily, an artificial intelligence, monitoring all the comings and goings along with a million other things it was probably doing simultaneously. Cool. Of course, Eugene had to be caught with a recording device. Abe obviously needed to carry a knife. What? Cindy was somehow in the possession of bullets, and Ned had stolen a jar of concentrated sulfuric acid, stolen directly from the chemistry lab. The guards gave them some serious side-eye as they passed through one by one, each student having something or the other that was most definitely banned, or just straight up weird. Then came the finale, the moment they had all been waiting for. Peter had been exempt from the body and bag scans for some reason he wasn't going to look into for his own sanity. He walked bravely forward. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, Roger thought, into the valley of death. He took a step, another. Then, with great trepidation, he walked over the boundary line. Good morning, Peter. Boss has been expecting you. Fucking Peter Parker.
Chapter 3 For Pepper Freaking Potts and Chad. Good morning, Peter. Boss has been expecting you. Oh, okay. Cindy was not going to lose her mind. Everything was fine. This was a totally normal thing for a super intelligent AI to say. Not at all cliche and ominous and super villainy. Everything was totally A-OK. Not that Iron Man was a supervillain to anyone, except the people trying to get insurance for superhero fights. He had seen so many people crying because their car had been thrown at a 50-foot tall Godzilla, or their apartment had been completely wrecked by the Scarlet Witch in Captain America. Now, apparently, the people who are just trying to live without Tony Stark tearing down their neighborhoods. The tour guide, some guy named Chad, who honest to God looks at a baby and names it Chad, was super surprised about the whole Skynet talking to a teen thing, though. Peter, huh? Must be someone special to Stark. Where did he pick you up from? What an asshole. Sleazy tone, disdain and implicit disgust, the lack of respect for someone with 2 degrees and 3 doctorates. This guy was just oozing frat boy Chad everywhere. Even MJ, with her contempt for the Marxist bourgeoisie, called him Dr. Stark, or at the very least, Mr. Stark. And was this guy implying that Peter was, sleeping with Mr. Stark? Disgusting. Evidently, Peter agreed. I'm not some escort, bro. I'm literally a high schooler. Then did you hack the AI for a petty prank? You should know that we here at Stark Industries don't take kindly to breaches in our security for silly little things like showing off to your friends. Even the guard looked at him skeptically. Flash sneered at the man, utilizing every inch of spoilt rich kid in his arsenal. He spoke very slowly as if talking to an idiot. This is Stark Industries. Venus isn't smart enough to hack the world's smartest AI successfully. Are you seriously this stupid? Cad was slowly turning red. Fascinating. Peter ignored the creep as they all piled into a gleaming elevator. He then looked at the ceiling like he was talking to God. Hi, Friday. I'm just here for a field trip. Promise I'll be gone after today. There's no need to inform Mr. Stark. I'm not going to wander or step in any confidential labs or talk to anyone I shouldn't be talking to. Heck, I promise I won't willingly step foot in any Stark property after today. See? No need to tell him. I'm sorry, Peter, but I must inform someone of Alpha clearance of any time an entity on the no admittance list is in a 5-meter radius of Stark Industries. What about Miss Romanov? You could tell her? The individual in question must be in the building or in the city itself. What about Rhodey? Peter was getting desperate. Colonel James Rhodes is currently at the Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. No, not Pepper. She'll tell Tony. Friday, don't make me do this. I'm begging you. Please, don't make me do something drastic. I won't be able to hold back. I know I won't. The AI, Friday, was silent. Then she spoke. I calculate an 86% chance of this going wrong for you, Peter. Are you sure you want to do this? Her voice had lost all its warmth. Peter didn't notice, though. He almost collapsed in relief. Yes, thank you, Friday. I promise I'll leave as soon as I can. You're welcome, Peter. However, I am not just doing this for you. I have a duty to the residents of this tower, and should you threaten their safety, I will not hesitate to remove you from the premises forcefully. Peter just hummed in acknowledgement, like it wasn't fucking crazy that Iron Man's AI thought that he was a big enough threat to be taken seriously. What the hell did Peter do in his free time? Mr. Harrington looked 3 seconds away from an aneurysm. Poor guy. Here's the thing. Cindy simped for Tony Stark. Who didn't? And was also very deeply immersed in what experts called the fandom. She simped for the man in that distant fandom sort of way where people wrote shitty Stony or Iron Winter fan fiction. But everyone knew how vicious fandoms could be and how brutally they could turn on each other. Hell hath no fury like a fangirl scorned, right? Well, she was going to make Tony Stark regret the day he was born. After all, she was the best of the best, wasn't she? She felt a grin spread across her face. It probably looked unhinged with the way the security guard and tour guide were edging away from her. Oh well, at least her Acadec team was as feral and chaotic as her. Their faces also looked giddily evil. She adored them, honestly. Fucking gremlins. God, planning this out had been so much fun. They had drawn chits to see who would drink something toxic this time or fall into a vat of toxic waste. Peter couldn't, obviously, not after the Osborne disaster. People don't just develop abs and lose their specs in a day, Peter. The employees here also genuinely knew and liked him, and they weren't going to jeopardize that. They were here to ruin Mr. Stark's reputation, not Peter's. Carl's was out, he had a health condition, and they weren't looking to kill him with the weirdest death ever. Abe had drawn the chit with the hastily scrawled neon green skull on it. He had seemed oddly cheered by the prospect. Weirdo. Bell chimed for the third floor. Weird. The guy had been talking through her internal monologue, and she was pretty sure that he said they were headed to the legal department on the 5th floor first. And then in walked the most badass, gorgeous woman on the planet. Oh my gosh, it was her. Cindy was going to combust on the spot. Pepper Potts's heels clicked in the most empowering and badass-sounding way as she walked into the elevator, not looking up from the file she was reading. Had she even noticed them? Apparently not, because she glanced up from the papers and looked visibly startled to see a group of teenagers staring into her soul. She recovered remarkably quick, though. With a probably practiced perfect smile, she greeted them, not minding the surly replies she got back at all. And then she noticed Peter. God, her smile was so much more pretty when it was real and relieved and sort of sheepish looking. Cindy internally swooned. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, was a breathtaking specimen of a woman. Powerful, assertive, in charge of major wealth and power, yet still pretty genuine and down to earth. He was in love. Miss Potts swooped down to give her classmate a hug, which she was totally jealous of, and pulled back to stare him in the eyes. They had some sort of silent conversation through eyebrows and eyes, which she was even more jealous of, because having a secret language with Pepper freaking Potts was like life goals. And she asked him, "You know what happened the week I was gone to Hong Kong? Friday refuses to tell me, and Tony's locked himself in the lab for a while now. He's also been drinking again, which is a bad sign. I was hoping you could talk to him and help him sort out whatever's been bothering him." Peter chuckled awkwardly and rubbed the back of his neck. Sheesh, was he going to have to tell Pepper freaking Potts he was banned from Stark Industries? Apparently, yeah. Miss Potts. Call me Pepper, Peter. Pepper, I'm actually not supposed to be here. It's kind of my fault Mr. Stark's in his lab. We had this huge fight and he banned me from all Stark-owned buildings. So, yeah, I had to convince Friday not to tell him I'm here on a field trip or immediately eject me from the building. Oh shit, he was avoiding eye contact with her. She also looked like she wanted to shake him and demand answers, but was holding back because they had an enraptured audience. Pepper freaking Potts took a deep breath and also turned to the ceiling as if to talk to God. I see. Friday, does it count if I am now aware of Peter's presence in the tower? Yes, boss lady, as you have alpha clearance. Thanks, darling. Peter, we'll figure this out, okay? For today, just try to relax. I won't tell Tony. Go have fun on your trip. Act your age for once. Thanks, Miss Pepper. The elevator reached the 5th floor. Miss Potts walked out to some office, presumably, and a very shaken and pale Chad led them out. Oh, right, he'd been there the whole time. Sue her, she didn't make a point of remembering assholes. Anyway, yada yada yada, something boring, the backbone of every company, something something important. Chad droned on and on like he was trying to bore them all to death. Even he looked bored. There were much better ways to introduce the legal department. Even Cindy could make a better speech off the top of her head. Legal was where all the fun stuff happened, where they valiantly fought against General Ross and the neighbour next door alike, where no issue was left unturned, where people battled not for glory, but for land and money and power, where lips were sealed with NDAs and money passed hands so often you couldn't tell who it belonged to. See? She should become a professional tour writer. Hey kid, you look familiar. The heads of everyone in their group snapped to the new voice. It was some dude peering suspiciously at Peter, who just looked confused. Poor guy. Me, sir, I'm Peter Parker. The man snapped his fingers. Peter Passport Parker. Yeah, I remember you. Peter Passport Parker. What the fuck? Apparently, Peter had conveyed the same feeling pretty well because the guy just started rambling. I thought it was super weird at the time. Still do, but back then I was new and didn't realize all the weird shit that came with this job. Still, when Tony Stark himself shows up at your desk and asks you to find a passport and visa for some kid within an hour, you fucking do it, right? We didn't care if they were forgeries or fakes or whatever, as long as they did the job, which was super fucking weird and illegal. Anyway, that's not a face you forget. Hello, Peter. Glad to make your acquaintance. Peter looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Which, mood, but not the point right now. Illegal passports. Forgeries. What the fuck, Peter? Chapter 4. For the 3 Ps. They might have been momentarily too stunned to speak by Peter's secret double life, but if they kept getting distracted by the shit their classmate got up to, they would never accomplish anything. And so commenced Phase 2 of the plan. Phase 2 was the journey to the building and making it through security. Sally had no idea why those two weren't separate phases, but it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Phase 2 revolved around the 3 Ps. Pester, Poke Around, and Pickpocket. Yes, she was very proud of the alliteration she had come up with. Pester. A nudge to Betty and a subtle nod towards the extremely harried, stressed beyond belief legal team. Betty took the hint and went to do what she did best, snoop and pry and ask as many invasive questions as possible to incite mental breakdowns. This skill, highly coveted and feared, was the Grant Special, passed down to Betty from her aunt, the most vicious reporter in North America, Eloise the Vulture Brandt. No, not that knockoff villain Vulture, was revered and dreaded in equal measures, and Betty was hoping to outshine her one day. At the same time, Abe and Flash got into a loud row. They gesticulated wildly, screaming and shouting at each other about an imaginary girlfriend that Flash had supposedly stolen from Abe. This drew everyone's attention. Sally took a deep breath. Here was where she came in. Already at the outskirts of the group, she snuck away into a bare cubicle. God, she really hoped this worked. Quick glance at the ceiling to the all-knowing entity that ruled these lands. Miss Friday? Yes, Miss Avril? If, hypothetically, one wanted to sow some harmless chaos and teach someone a lesson, there was an all-seeing AI that reported to them. How would one go about it? Pause. She held her breath. It would depend on what kind of chaos the hypothetical individual had in mind, the fallout of such chaos, and the hypothetical lesson being taught. Of course, if the hypothetical individual posed no threat to the well-being of the AI's creator, or the residents of the AI's home, the AI could be persuaded with an overview of the individual's plans. God bless AIs with a penchant for mischief. They'd already discussed this, and Peter had brought up this exact situation and how to deal with it. From her pocket she withdrew a step-by-step explanation of their plan, complete with contingencies and emergency procedures. He placed it on the desk face up, waiting for less than 5 seconds before stuffing it back hastily into her pocket. Friday spoke up. After carefully reviewing the hypothetical plans of the hypothetical individuals, I would say that if a hypothetical AI saw them, she would not report them unless directly asked. Was that a hint of mirth in her voice? Holy shit, they were going to get away with this. Now, here started her real job. Phase 2, subsection B. Poke around. Slipping in between cubicles, she looked around for vacant ones, preferably those with papers still on the desks, or desktops unlocked. Because according to Peter, the employees usually had their lunch break around this time. She was wearing her best business clothes TM to blend in better, and it seemed to be working. No one had given her a second glance. Patent, lawsuit, patent, accident due to chemicals, patent, lawsuit, patent. Ugh. He needed something drastic, something scandalous, something that would shake the world. She was internally despairing when a soft voice behind her piped up. On your left. Shit. Her heart spiked as she whirled around. What the fuck? She thought she had been caught, but there was no one behind her, just empty air. Sorry, I've been watching these guys for a while. I've always wanted to say that. Nice to meet you. Oh, okay. Disembodied voice. It was all totally fine, and she totally didn't hear an invisible person. Was some supervillain bored enough to talk to a high schooler? Was Dark Industries just haunted? Was she going to get brutally murdered after doing the bidding of an evil overlord? Mind-controlled? Possessed? Nice to meet you too, Mr. Oh, I'm no mister, but call me Jude. Hello, Jude. Who are you, and why are you following me? I guess you could call me a mutant. I just like watching the Avengers and the MCU in general. MCU? Oh, fuck. Forget I said that. Anyways, on the desk on your left there's some pretty scandalous stuff. The password is 4538813. No idea why, but I don't really care. Thanks. You're welcome. Now I gotta go, but sow some chaos for me, Savvy. Savvy? Great, it was nice to meet you. There was a sudden change in the air, like it had just gotten a little lighter and fresher. Well, that was fucking weird. Hey, at least she didn't get murdered. Yay. She looked down at the desk Jude had indicated. Could she? He had come here to snoop, and it would be a waste not to see what secrets Stark Industries held. Jude had so nicely given her password, too. Damn it, she was going to listen to the mysterious voice in the air, wasn't she? 4538813. God bless Acadec memorization skills. The computer turned on to the last thing opened. Jackpot. Huh. Oh. Oh, wow. This shit was wild. Apparently, Stark Industries was paying a lot of hush money to fake the death of Georgia Lovett, the often rising movie star and politician. Sally remembered her. That woman had been absolutely horrible with her blatant homophobia, sexism, and the refusal to believe global warming existed. An absolute menace to society, not in a fun way. Still, to fake her death? Fucking hell. Shit, her time was running out. She took some quick pictures of the papers and put them back exactly as she found them. Then, she quietly locked the computer, took a deep breath and walked out, striding smoothly in the aisles. Chin up, shoulders back. Sally walked like she belonged there and dared anyone to contradict her. She made it to safety, slipping back into the group like she had never left at all. A nod to MJ to let her know she'd been successful. Phew, she was done. That had been nerve-wracking. The next phase was out of her hands and had hopefully already taken place. Phase 2, subsection C, pickpocket. Betty had suggested they pickpocket employees and swish their badges around because nobody really peered at their own badge all that much. Friday agreeing to it had been the biggest hurdle, but surprisingly she was pretty chill with anyone except Peter. Ned had hyped Peter up on his apparently legendary pickpocketing skills, which, what? Why did they even know that? Anyways, Peter had been super reluctant about it, till Flash had scoffed that Penis Parker couldn't possibly do it. Of course, faced with a challenge like that, there was no way Peter would ever say no, and, lo and behold, he'd given them a demonstration right there. He had them all walk through a crowded corridor with random pieces of cardboard of roughly badge size. 10 minutes later, they all had emptied out their pockets. And damn, not a single one of them had noticed him pickpocketing them or replacing the goods. But every single one of the cardboard pieces had been replaced. Peter had just winked. He had said, and she quotes him directly, "In some circles they call me Sticky Fingers." Which, what the fuck, Peter? Chapter 5. The Rumours and Ratings. Ned was kind of cute. Betty shook her head. This was not the time to start thinking about her cute, nerdy, probably into some illegal shit, classmate. They had moved on to the PR department, coincidentally right next to legal, probably because any disaster in one meant a disaster for the other, like twins who got grounded as a collective thing. Ugh, brute punishment. She hated when teachers did it, when they all had to stay back because someone, cough Jackson, cough, had been caught smoking weed in the guys' bathroom. They should have at least let the girls go. Betty was planning on being a lawyer or reporter, and she was pretty sure Article 87(3) of the 1949 Geneva Convention 3 said that collective punishment for individual acts when cruel punishment was forbidden. Anyways, PR department. The ones who covered up the innumerable scandals and the source of all those extraordinarily gaudy and trying to be cool with the younger generation's posters and advertisements. Source of some actual good stuff, really. The Avengers merch in their Twitter accounts for one. Then the TikTok reels and the YouTube account that posted a blooper reel every month of all the shit the employees got up to. The ones who dealt with the press, the ones who dealt with the world at large. The scientists who worked at Stark Industries were reclusive geniuses who could make anything they imagined in less than an hour, but also forgot things like human societal niceties and how to talk to other people. Kind of feral. Like Peter, after he pulled an all-nighter and came to school sleep-deprived and ready to rip Flash's head off. They were Pepper Potts' soldiers, with sharp-cutting eyeliner and heels that clicked when they walked, ambitious, ruthless men and women with zero time for anyone's bullshit. Yes, he was a little in love with them. One day she would be working here alongside them, as a girl boss making empires from the rubble of rejection and underestimation. Powerful. Beautiful. Pity she was going to get kicked out of Stark Industries after this trip. Oh well, at least it was for a cause she believed in. Phase 3. PR. Press rumours. Yes, the name needed work. While the team distracted the employees, Ned hacked into the Stark servers, specifically the public relations part of it. Holy shit, they were in control of arguably the most powerful division of the biggest company in the world. Holy fucking shit. He winked, which should not have looked as cute as it did, and she got the hint, slipping in her earphones and asking to go to the washroom. Okay, she could do this. She was just in total control of absolutely everything important in the world for a while. No biggie. He sat in a closed cubicle just as the first call came in. Okay, showtime. Good morning. Thank you for calling Stark Industries. This is Maria Santiago speaking from PR. How may I help you today? Hello, Maria. This is Janice Underfelt from the Daily Correspondent. This is actually my first day on the job, so forgive me if this sounds too unprofessional, but I think I had an interview scheduled with your department for right now. It was about the unpaid labour accusations, if that helps. Betty felt her glee grow with every word. This couldn't be more perfect. A newbie. Potential scandal. The situation was just waiting to get taken advantage of. Oh, of course. We at Stark Industries pride ourselves on being punctual. Let's begin if you're comfortable. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to tell you that, but thank you. Okay, there has recently been strong public support to ban unpaid work experience that lasts more than 4 weeks, and Stark Industries has come under great scrutiny. What would you like to respond to that? Stark Industries offers paid internships to anyone of age, and only those ineligible, such as minors part of our September Grant Foundation internships, are not paid, as we are stark, if you'll excuse the pun, non-believers in child labour. These highly skilled teenagers get the chance to work in the labs of renowned scientists for 3 weeks of their summer, and should they impress us greatly, receive scholarships to the most well-respected universities and colleges around the world. Of course, there are exceptions. Exceptions? Would you care to elaborate? Betty's phone dinged. It was some pictures from Sally. Oh, wow, she could use this. Put this down as an anonymous source, but there's this one kid who's been roaming around for almost a year now. No one knows who he is or where he works. Some say he's a ghost, which would make sense. There are a lot of reasons someone would haunt a place like Stark Industries. Janice's voice was carefully intrigued when she spoke next, like she was going to get the scoop of her life if she didn't mess up and spook Maria away. Oh, that seems unlikely. It is the world's foremost producer of green energy and scientific miracles. Betty snorted. Every great empire is built on blood and bones, Miss Underfelt. Believe me, I work in the department that has to cover them up. No one knows who the kid is. Some say he's Dr. Stark's dead illegitimate child, based solely on their interactions. Some say he's a helpful cryptid, and if you call his name 3 times with an offering of coffee, he'll solve even the most perplexing issues with ease. A few think he's the ghost of a child killed by a Stark missile in the Merchant of Death era. Personally, I believe it. Here, she fake hesitated. I can't tell you anything concrete. Dig into recent celebrities who've gone against Stark Industries. See where they've ended up. And definitely look into the newly patented clone development program. Maybe take a little foray into bioengineering accomplishments, the lizards and the watermelons. And, if you can, police records for recent arrests. Maybe a little forgery and some art theft. Of course, this is all purely coincidental and totally hypothetical. Because I haven't told you anything concrete and have chosen to remain anonymous, I shall in no way be connected to any of it, right? Right. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. Goodbye, Miss Underfelt, and congratulations on the job. Betty cut the call. God, what had she been thinking? Lizards and watermelons, a ghost cryptid. Thank God it was a newbie. There was no way anyone else would have believed this absolute bullshit. She took a deep breath, released, sent a text to the group chat that she was done. Getting out of the washroom was much less stressful than entering. The entire interview had been 2 minutes, tops, barely long enough for anyone to get suspicious. He rejoined them in the department and smiled. It was finally time for her to interrogate her idols. God have mercy on them. They were meant to see all parts of SI, including the businessy parts, and right according to plan, they went to a conference room next. Now this was a slight exaggeration. They weren't going to let strangers, teenagers at that, into the meetings of actual important people for the fun of it. No, the tour groups were led into a small room attached, where they could see everything through a one-way mirror, could hear nothing. Wasn't it a pity that one Ned Woods Leeds was still in the Stark Industries server, and that one AI desperately needed some entertainment? As you can see, the department has come to a census about the D2L release dates today as the demand. Ugh, boring. Thank God they were going to spice it up a little bit. Charlie, affectionately called Charles, took a rainbow feather boa out of his bag and swiped Cindy's eyeliner. Add in the green foggy bucket hat he already wore, and you got quite a striking picture. The dramatic gay burst through the connecting door in all his sensational glory, sashaying up to the head of the room, while Ned, bless him, blasted Toxic through the speakers. He struck a pose while the music reached a crescendo, and rainbow lights. Was Friday helping them? Flashed, both abruptly cutting out as he slammed his hands on the table. Betty was quite impressed with the timing. Charles took in the baffled men and women in front of them for a second and proclaimed, "Ladies and gentlemen, today you will learn the most important sacred knowledge of your life. Get ready to have your mind blown." Behind him, the presentation on stocks abruptly changed. It was now the most awfully formatted, hottest Disney villains, completed with cheesy Comic Sans and word art. She heard a hysterical giggle from someone next to her. What a fucking mood. At number 5, we have the bulk, the bear, the muscles to die for, the one and only Gaston. Gaston's hotness may have gone to his head and ruined his personality, but he was still a pure paragon of beefy, sexy manliness. Points have been deducted for him not drinking his respect women juice. Holy shit. One of the employees was actually writing notes. The man looked serious, nodding at everything Charles said. Next up, at number 4, we have Dr. Facilita from The Princess and the Frog movie. That song with that one line, "Won't you take a poor sinner's hand?" Literal shivers. Plus, he's a doctor, so like double hotness points for that. Also, magic. The picture of Dr. Facilita did look very sexy. Next up, Maleficent. Even without the live-action remake, she's so hot. Everyone's a simp for her, and if you aren't, you're a liar. Next up, at number 2, Scar. No, I'm not a furry. Yes, I would still fuck him if he was human. That delicious voice, the power and deviousness, the DILF energy. He's the evil brother overthrowing the king. Why was that man still taking down notes? What the fuck? And finally, at number 1, we have a tie. Any questions so far? The man raised his hand. Yeah, hi. Why aren't older women like Mother Gothel or the Evil Queen included in this list? Thank you for that insightful question, dear audience. That is because their entire villainy revolved around looking younger or prettier. We give vain villains no recognition for their beauty and encourage them to look for less stupid motives next time. Any other questions? The room was silent. Okay, well, continuing. At number 1 we have, drum roll please. He paused as an actual drum roll played. Queen Nerissa and Jafar. If you don't know who Queen Nerissa is, she's the queen from Ella Enchanted, and she looks like this. He gestured behind him. He was indeed quite hot. And Jafar, God, the things I would let that man do to me. Cool, ambitious, stylish, has power and knows it, manipulative, sexy, the list goes on and on. One of the older men coughed uncomfortably. Or was the poor little white guy uncomfortable with gay people? Sucks to be him then. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions, be sure to reach out to me, pepperonipineapples@smail.com. Thank you for your time and goodbye. That was fun. They turned to leave, shaken tour guide in tow, when she heard MJ curse. Peter's missing. What the fuck, Peter? Chapter 6. For Peter Benjamin Satan Parker. Abe watched nervously as their captain frantically messaged Peter. No response. Sit. He spoke up at the cool robot lady. A robot lady. Hey, Friday, do you know where Peter is? I'm afraid not, Mr. Brown. Can't you find him on your cameras? I have tried, but Peter is one of the 3 individuals who both know about and can avoid all my cameras. My apologies. What the fuck? Peter could accurately avoid every single camera of Stark Tower, even the secret ones. Yes, he knew there were probably secret cameras, because there were none in this room he could see. Sally looked up at the ceiling. Who were the other 2? Ms. Romanoff and Mr. Barnes, Miss Avril. Man, Peter, what the actual fuck? Do not make anything easy for the rest of them. Now how on earth were they going to find him? Mama didn't raise no quitter, but Mama also didn't account for one Peter Benjamin Satan Parker. MJ clearly didn't share his feelings, thank God, because she stormed out of the room and cornered the nearest employee just walking through the halls. Poor guy, he looked terrified. He didn't hear what she whispered to him. Clearly it must have worked, because the guide led them into another glass conference room, this time with double-sided glass. Normal glass, whatever. The point was that MJ had successfully intimidated an employee into giving them a room to plan their next steps. God bless her, and also keep her away from him. The tour guide had something like that. The asshole threw his hands up. To hell with it. You guys have been pretending like I'm not even here this whole time, sneaking off and starting fights and doing God knows what, like I won't notice when it's literally my job. Like, okay, I apologize for what I said earlier. Sorry, I was just surprised. But you guys are going to make me lose my job. And you know what's worse? This is literally the most interesting thing that's happened to me since I got it. So you know what? Go ahead. Jesus, take the fucking wheel, because clearly I'm not on it. Oh shit. How did they all forget about Chad? Yes, he was an asshole. But after this, there was no way Mr. Stark wouldn't fire him. Sit. Well, not if they found Peter first. The security guard agreed with his thoughts, because Stark Industries simply had superior mind-reading guards. Yeah, no. My job is on the line just as much as you. Maybe even worse, because this was meant to be a punishment for stealing Happy's food. Plus, you kids are fucking psycho. The only reason I haven't tried to get you guys kicked out is that Friday is on your side. I'm coming too. No way I'm letting you be alone. One of you would probably fall into a vat of toxic waste or something on purpose. Fucking gremlins. Abe tried very hard not to think of the chit he had drawn, to dive into what was indeed a vat of toxic waste. Damn mind-reading guards. Carly, still dressed to slay, started off. Friday, is there anything you can do even if the cameras aren't an option? Oh yeah, the Academic Decathlon team was actually smart. You forgot sometimes. Peter and Boss Lady's orders prevent me from telling Boss. Though I am not mistaken, this counts as a breach of contract on Peter's side. I am therefore allowed to enact the Super Spy Can Hear a Fly protocol. All SHIELD agents in the building and the immediate vicinity will be informed and ordered to search for him. Well, sucks to be Peter. If he didn't want a manhunt by a government spy agency, he should have just stayed put. The next step, according to the snippets of the missing person pamphlet he remembered from 3rd grade, was figuring out the most likely places Peter could be. He shared as much with the rest of his friends. Ned lit up. I think I know. He probably went to his lab. He told me he was running low on some supplies? Yeah, supplies that he can only get from here. He was probably hoping he could sneak in, take them and sneak out, then slip back into the group next, because next we're all going to R&D anyways. He was clearly holding back some important information, but it wasn't like Abe didn't have his theories. It was either being a stripper or being Spider-Man. He was leaning towards being Spider-Man because there was no way Aunt May would let Peter be a stripper. Also, Flash had almost had a stroke when they all brought it up in their Peter Parker, Ho or Mo group chat. Hey, Friday, can you tell if Peter is anywhere in that area? No, Miss Jones. I feel as though it's my duty to inform you, however, the boss is coming down to this floor. MJ grit her teeth. Why? I believe the employees have been gossiping about the general chaos going down on this floor, and I was unable to answer Boss when he asked me about it. Usually this kind of emotion and lack of information is a security threat. Iron Man was coming down here, fully believing they were a security threat. Fuck. Peter cursed as he rounded the corner. Not out loud, because he was trying to be sneaky, but cursed nevertheless. There, in all of his golden-maned, big beefy, absolutely gorgeous glory, was Thor, god of thunder, which was awkward because he had cursed Thor in his head. Hopefully, Thor didn't receive prayers like Jesus, because he was sure everyone his age regularly made up bullshit prayers as memes. The golden retriever with sparky boom boom powers spotted him and made his way over. Pony son. Nope, not going there. Ignore him, Peter. Man of spiders. Fuck. Hopefully there was no one around. Booming voice wasn't done, though. What are you doing here? I thought you would be with your father in his lab. Peter yanked the guy with all his super strength into a little alcove. Hi, Mr. Thor. Mr. Stark and I aren't really talking right now, so if you see him, please don't tell him I'm here. Thor dropped his voice, which Peter didn't think was possible. Oh, are you sneaking around? May I assist you in this endeavour? No, shit. I mean, yes, absolutely. I would love your help, Mr. Thor. You're just a little loud. Ah, do not worry, man of spiders. I am well versed in being stealthy. I grew up with Loki, after all, and despite what he might tell anyone, it was his fault we got caught in Vanaheim. Huh. Okay. Welcome aboard then, I guess. So what's the plan? Well, Mr. Stark doesn't know I'm here, but I need some things from my lab for the whole, rhyme shooting his webs thing. And today is our field trip here, and I just went and got them. Now I need to sneak back into the group without the employees noticing. And those SHIELD agents? What? Did you not hear the orders the woman in the walls gave out? They are to find you and make sure you are escorted out. No, I didn't know there were SHIELD agents after me. What the fuck? Friday said she wouldn't tell Mr. Stark. To be fair, I don't think the Man of Iron knows. That's worse. Okay, new plan. Thor, can you distract them while I get up to the 7th floor? That's where the Acadec team is. Of course, that is child's play. Watch and learn, young spider. Watch and learn. Thor took off his cape and let it hang askew, mussed up his hair. Yes, it was sexy. And took a deep breath. A look of abject terror came over his face. He rushed out into the hallway and boomed at the approaching agents. Help! There's some monstrous piece of metal downstairs. I have not the technological know-how to operate instruments of this planet, and simply cannot tell whether it is malicious in nature or simply an experiment gone wrong. Will someone please assist me? Not even the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were immune to his good looks and puppy dog eyes. The three of them immediately rushed to the emergency stairwell. The coast was clear. Peter snuck into the elevator. He was currently on the 4th floor, so 3 floors to go. Hopefully, no one needed this specific elevator. He pressed the button and waited as the elevator smoothly rose. Ah, fuck. The doors were opening. Shit. With nowhere to hide, Peter did the only logical thing. He jumped onto the ceiling. No one ever looked up, right? This was so awkward. The guy muttered to himself. We have to find some brat. What the fuck? This is what S.H.I.E.L.D. does. I thought it'd be more patriotism and hypocrisy. This is so boring. What the fuck do I tell my handlers? Sorry, I couldn't do the crucial information gathering Hydra needed because the robot told me to look for a child. They'll straight up murder me. The elevator slowly made its way up. In another elevator stood the one and only Tony Stark, peering intently at something on his Stark pad. There was something going on the 7th floor, and Friday wasn't responding. Yes, she could be covering for an employee. He was actually surprisingly sneaky. But more importantly, it could be a security threat. Maybe her servers had been hacked. Looking down at his screen, he could see that there had been an unusual amount of activity today, like her firewalls had been breached, and then the hacker backed off. Why wasn't he able to see any of it, though? He would have a perfect log of all attempts and updates needed to thwart future ones. The elevator slowly made its way down. Abe could not believe his eyes. There they all were, anxiously waiting any news, sitting in silence and peering through the glass walls. Because Stark Industries really was rich enough to have glass walls like some episode of Suits. And then, on the other side of the hallway, the elevators opened in perfect sync. On one side was Tony motherfucking Stark. On the other was Peter. He looked kind of ruffled, actually. Must have had to hide from the feds. Before Tony motherfucking Stark could look up from his Stark pad, the aforementioned feds burst in through the stairwell. They swarmed the floor, creating a crowd as they moved with practiced, eerie movements of trained assassins and special agents. Thank God, because Peter saw Mr. Stark as well, and promptly decided to hide. On the ceiling. What the fuck? Was Abe actually right? Peter was Spider-Man. So that time he saw him eat a bug like it was candy wasn't a hallucination. Holy shit. Peter Benjamin Satan Parker was Spider-Man. Next to him, Flash was having a stroke. Good for him. Mr. Harrington looked like he was simultaneously having an aneurysm and regretting all his life choices, which was valid. Poor guy. Mr. Stark saw the agents and promptly put on what Abe would like to call a superhero face. Try, implement a full lockdown in the tower and an additional one on this floor. I want a full report of all incomings and outgoings over the last few hours. What's happened here? One of the agents bravely stepped forward. Mr. Stark, we were informed by Friday that there was a security threat loose in the tower. This is the only floor yet to be searched. God, please don't look up. Whatever you do, don't look up. Behind the glass, Abe and his fellow idiots watched in tense silence, holding their breath. Peter crawled very, very slowly. The agents burst into the other rooms and opened every door. Thank God the ceiling was super high. Peter crawled a little more. Squeak. Shit. Peter's crappy shoes. Mr. Stark looked up. What the fuck? Peter. Chapter 7. A family drama. Peter was straight up not having a good time. He literally just escaped a manhunt organized by the world's premier super spy industry and had revealed his secret identity to his classmates, and now he was going to fight Anthony Edward Stark. God, he was so tired. Turning his head down to peer at him, he sighed. Hello, Anthony. Don't you Anthony me, young man. What are you doing here? Peter, still on the ceiling, gestured vaguely towards the glass door where the Acadec team stood, hoping the man would get the hint. He wasn't usually one to get irritated, but he was just so tired of his anxiety and stress. Let Tony stress instead for once. This conversation was not going to go well, he could already tell. His spidey senses gave a discontent hum, agreeing with him. Mentally sending a prayer to Thor, the one true Avenger in his opinion, he tried to convey all the anxiety and I got caught he could. Some field trip or something. Get it, Parker. Get out. He dropped down from the ceiling and raised his hand. He almost agreed. Pinky promise. He was 100% going to agree. His mouth didn't get the memo. Maybe his mouth had been kicked out of the company-wide email chain. Sure, I know you don't like people with actual backbones in this building, only morally bankrupt capitalist pigs who agree with your every word. My bad, I'll just be getting out of your hair. Oh. Oops. Thor was doing amazing. He hadn't had so much fun and non-deathly stress ages. Not since he and Loki stole the All-Father's chariot for a joyride in their youth. Tony and his son were having a bit of a spat, like all healthy families did. He was honoured to be included in the family drama, truly. The All-Father would have never let an outsider know anything. Still, Peter Tony's son seemed stressed about this, so it was his sworn duty to help out in any way he could. Right now, that meant hunting down the closest dumbasses he could use as cannon fodder to throw between the pair. Thor wasn't dumb. No matter how many times he accidentally hit his head with Mjolnir, he was smart enough to just watch the drama from the sidelines. Besides, it had been too long since someone prayed to him sincerely and didn't spout gibberish in their heads like the youth of today were prone to do. He didn't know what a boomer or a meme were, but they sure were driving him crazy, them Ratterstocks. Ah, slumped across the couches was Sam, son of Will, and James Bucky. Perfect. My friends, it has been too long. Now I'm sure you have missed me, but we must make haste. Your aid is required. The man of spiders is confronting the man of iron. Sam rolled his eyes before shuffling upright. What on earth could those two be fighting about? Oh, haven't you heard? Peter Tony's son was ousted from the tower, and on his entry today was beset by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. I helped him evade them for a while, but it seemed it was all for naught. This caught James's attention. He leaned forward, abandoning what looked like a wad of gum under the table. Was this a Midgardian custom he was yet to learn? He was being chased by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Indeed. James looked to the ceiling. Friday, details, please. Peter disagreed with Boss on a new land acquisition. They had a fight, and Boss banned Peter from the tower. Peter had a field trip today. His class is quite lovely. However, they are currently trapped in Conference Room A, watching Peter and Boss confront each other. Peter's identity has been compromised. Shit. Oh, hell no, you want to help the twerp? James grunted and furrowed his brow. I owe that twerp a favour, and he's also fighting with Stark. Might as well make sure the happy family doesn't break apart due to their combined stupidness. You do know they're both geniuses, right? I think the term is genii. No, that's not the kind of smarts I'm talking about. Nah, Popsicle. I'm pretty sure it's geniuses. Now move it. If we're helping Spider-Brat, we need to reach them before the fight's over. The fight had escalated very quickly. I don't care. Go on, ruin people's lives, merchant of death. Hey, it's not my fault you're too young and naive to understand how the world works, kid. There are some things that are far beyond your understanding. Sam and Bucky burst through the door. Why were they here? Tony hadn't noticed them and went on. You keep pretending that you have some sway over this company. You know whose name is on this building? Stark. That's right. Me. You're not a Stark, kid, and will never be. Peter winced. Hurt. This little bitch. He bared his teeth and hissed. Stark. I wouldn't want to be. You'll never be anything more than an egoistic, narcissistic little man who brings ruin everywhere he goes. Tony hurled the Stark pad at him. Peter sidestepped out of the way. Bucky jumped in to catch it. Huh. In his periphery, he heard an elevator ding and the sound of Pepper's heels rushing towards them. He wasn't done, though. Striding up to Tony, he jabbed a finger in his chest. You think you know what's best for everyone, Mr. Suit of Armour around the world. You think you know everything. You don't know jack shit. Oh, like Spider-Man knows best. Tell that to all the people on that ferry. Oh yeah? Well, at least I didn't strip a teenager of their only protection for my own ego. What was it you said? If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it. Yeah, turns out you're nothing with it, either. Peter saw red. Enough, both of you. Shut up about Peter. The squeak of sneakers, a flying fist. Tony's body hit the floor with a heavy thud. What the fuck? Ned Woods Leeds, Nedwin, Nedalina had run through the corridor of agents and socked Tony Stark straight across the jaw. What the fuck? A shocked silence fell. He looked to Pepper, as people so often do, to brutally explain what alternate dimension they had all fallen into. Her eyes gentled and she reached out to hug him. He flinched away. Peter, darling, I just saw the merger. Tony had renegotiated the deal as soon as you pointed out the flaws. He's just being a dick. So he's too much of a man-baby to confront his own feelings. Does he need you to manage those for him too? Shut up, Peter. Why are you being a bitch to Pepper? She's literally a goddess. Oh no, he just insulted Pepper freaking Potts. She was going to kill him. She laughed, which was not the reaction he was expecting. The Acadec team all left the safety of the glass room to brave the wild, wild unknown and trailed into the corridor. MJ spoke up. It still doesn't make it right. What if this happens again? What if Peter's not around and he makes another asinine deal? Silence fell once more as a new conundrum was presented, and Peter idly wondered why the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents hadn't left. Surely they had better things to do than listen to drama. They did not. This was the most interesting thing to happen all day. After a while, Sam spoke up. Hear me out. What if you draw a contract where any decision that affects the public directly has to be approved by either Peter or Pepper? You can still do your product releases and new inventions, but stuff that involves the public beyond consumer or to be protected would need a second signature. Peter here would essentially be your conscience. I mean, we all know your Royal Majesty can sometimes forget how much you affect our humble little peasant lives. Peter brightened. Oh, like I do for Mr. Loki and his world domination tendencies. Oh shit, wait, was I not supposed to tell you guys he's alive? What the fuck, Peter?